Hey everybody, happy Monday, happy Halloween. This is Meredith Miller here again with your Sana Q&A Mondays. Remember the link is below the video if you'd like to leave a question for these Sana Q&As. I am a little bit behind. There's still quite a bank of questions that are building up. Some people are submitting multiple questions. So I am trying to give, new people that chance to hear their questions answered first, as opposed to answering a second and a third question by the same person in a short period of time. When I get to the point where I'm answering all the questions, I'll come back to those, but to be fair, and because this is my pro bono time, right, that I'm giving away for everyone to benefit from, that's what I'm doing. So I'm gonna hit this question right now. It says, "Hi Meredith, I'm planning to move away from my two narc parents and go no contact in a few months. I'm moving in with a childhood friend, but I'm feeling skittish. I look back on friends I've made throughout my life and feel that some of them may have been narcs and others may have been codependents. When I'm with this friend, I feel safe, but something still scares me. I also haven't told her about the plan to go no contact, but I think she would support me. How do I approach the conversation, and how do I stop feeling this way? Thanks for doing these Q&As." So, okay. First of all, awesome that you're planning on going no contact, and I'm so sorry, that you grew up with both parents with those narcissistic tendencies. So it's awesome that you're making a plan to get out of there. Now, the fact that you're feeling skittish is probably a sign to have caution. It's probably a warning sign. So I would recommend testing the waters, okay? So now, before you're moving in and everything, I would try talking to your friend. Maybe just start a little bit on the tip of the iceberg, right? That, you're planning on going no contact with your parents, and name a little bit of the reasons why, very clearly stated, and see her reaction to that. Like, is she curious? Is she supportive? Is she understanding? Is she asking questions to understand what she doesn't understand? Is she being helpful? Or is she being judgmental, putting you down, telling you that's not right and you shouldn't, punish your parents, or you should feel ashamed, for this or that, or guilty for this or that, or maybe even threaten to have contact with your parents, something like that. So I would test the waters just a little bit. I wouldn't give her a lot because you don't know for sure if you can trust this person yet, right? So I would test a little bit. How many of you have ever either seen, the narcissist, psychopath, sociopath, borderline, whomever, or for example, you tell them about someone else who was a narcissist, or you tell them something like, "I'm so glad you're not like that," or, "You must be a codependent like me," or something like that. Have you ever seen, and I can't really imitate it, but it's like the side of their mouth smiles, and they're like, I'm doing a horrible job imitating this, but it's like, and it's only the one side, and there's something about the eyes, and it's like they're, I don't know how to explain it, but it's like there's this smugness about it, and it's like they're like, yeah, like that's not me, or she doesn't see me, or that's funny that she's talking or he's talking about narcissists and psychopaths, and doesn't even see who I am, and I'm totally under the radar. It's something like that. I can't really explain it. I don't think I'm doing an accurate job of explaining this. But how many of you have ever seen that, where you were talking about an ex maybe who was narcissistic, or maybe you're talking about your family, and then this new person that you're with does that smile thing, and it's like they're getting away with it. That's what it is. It's something like they're getting away with it. Like they think you're talking about it, but you're clueless about who they are, right? That sort of thing. If you see that look on her face, I would be very cautious. That could be her knowing who she is, recognizing that your parents are similar, recognizing that you see your parents, but you don't see her, and she's getting away with it. So I would be very attentive to her facial expressions, to her body language, and to her response in general to you revealing the tip of the iceberg of the truth about your situation and why you're planning on taking these steps forward. And so notice what happens too when you set a boundary with her. So if you're going to be living with her, anybody that you're living with and sharing space, there has to be a mutual understanding of boundaries. Like, boundaries are really going to come up when you're living with someone. So you better start now, right? Now ask yourself, what's one boundary? Maybe even like something saying no, right? Because that's an easy boundary to start with. Or another one could be something that you're sharing with someone, saying no to someone for something, or sharing or not sharing something. So think about setting a boundary with that person. Think about with your friend. Think about, is there some kind of boundary that you really need to set with her? Some no that you've been meaning to tell her. Maybe she's always trying to talk to you on the phone and you have other things to do. Or maybe she wants you to go do this thing, but you really don't like doing that thing and you'd rather stay home, but you kept going along and then you didn't really have fun and then you felt resentful and you want to actually say no. Or maybe it's something with sharing. Maybe, you want to share something with her and see, how she responds and how she uses that information. Does she use it to shame you, to put you down, to make you feel small? It's so funny. I got this message from someone the other day, and it was like supposedly supportive, right? As if we were like friends or something. And it's like probably at least 4 times in that message she called me small, like literally used that word, but then immediately juxtaposed it with, but I'm just like you, and we this and that, and we, and you're small, and we, and that sort of thing. I would have red flags blaring if you see that sort of thing from your friend when you're sharing something with her. So be very cautious, and I would start with setting that boundary like tomorrow, today, the next time you have contact with her. Set a new boundary that needs to be set, something that's really been bothering you, something you're a little resentful of, or just something that you're like rehashing over and over again. Set the boundary and see what happens, right? Because like I say, you can tell really quickly who's toxic and who's not by setting a boundary, right? So how does a toxic person respond to a boundary? A toxic person will impose, right? They can do that violently, they can do that aggressively, they can do that in your face directly at you, or they can take the roundabout way, which is fire something over here, a little bit of guilt tripping. Oh, I just felt so unwelcome. I just felt like you didn't really want to spend time with me. Or some kind of shaming, like, you have this problem, but nobody else thinks it's a problem for this. And so they're firing, a roundabout. And then sometimes they'll just come straight away, like straight at you aggressively. Any of those things are no bueno. So anytime you see that kind of reaction to a boundary that you set, you already know that person is toxic. You don't need to know if that person is a narcissist, a psychopath, a borderline, a sociopath, a histrionic, or a severely unhealthy codependent. Like, it doesn't matter. You know that person is unhealthy and toxic. That person is not respecting your boundaries. So it's not going to be a healthy friendship to have, and you certainly wouldn't want to live with someone who doesn't respect your boundaries, because that would be a nightmare, right? And how do you tell if that's a healthy friend? When you set that boundary and you're like, hey friend, I'm sorry, but I really have all this other stuff to do. I just can't spend this much time on the phone with you. How about if we talk on Tuesdays and Saturdays? Or how about if we talk on Saturdays? Or how about if we talk every other Saturday? Your friend's gonna go, okay, cool, sure, that's awesome. I look forward to talking to you on Saturday. Or maybe you're like, friend, I really can't hang out right now. I just got a lot going on and I'm sorry I can't go with you to whatever. And your friend's like, no worries. Give me a call when you're free. I'd love to see you then. Or, let me know if you're free this weekend. And they just leave it like that for you. They're like, okay, no worries. You reach out to me when you want to hang out with me, right? They totally respect your boundary. They're supportive of your boundaries. That's a healthy friend. That would be a friend that you could live with, right? So you want to test these boundaries with your friend from now to make sure that this person is actually a healthy friend before you get yourself in too deep, and recognize that even if this doesn't work out, if this isn't the right situation, it's okay. There will be another situation. It doesn't have to be this one that gets you out of the situation with your parents, okay? So just be cautious that you're not jumping into like the same or similar or even worse kind of situation. And how you feel says everything. How you feel says everything. How you feel when you're with a person, how you feel when you're talking to a person, how you feel afterward when you're thinking about them, or just after hanging out with them. Really check in with how you're feeling, because that's your inner barometer, that's your intuition. And it could be that you're making yourself feel sick and worried about something imaginary that's not there. It could be that because you're so used to your parents treating you in a certain way, you're almost expecting the worst from your friend, but you haven't really investigated or asked questions. You've just made some assumptions based on the typical treatment with your parents. That could be happening, right? That's why you want to ask questions and investigate, right? To verify, to see, and to not make those assumptions, right? To actually see what's going on there. But it actually could be that your intuition, your feeling, is warning you, right? So the only way you can find out is by testing, by asking some questions, getting some more information. So when you don't know, when you're unsure, you need to gather more information. So that's what I would do, and I would do that in those ways of checking the boundaries. What happens if you say no to her about something, or what happens if you share something with her? How does she use that information? Is she supportive? Is she helpful? Is she loving? Or does she find an excuse to put you down and make you feel small? Those are really great ways to test that situation. And like I said, when you're not sure if that feeling is coming from your intuition or if it's paranoia, ask some questions. But I would always trust the intuition. There's probably something there. If you don't get the answers and you're still feeling that way, go with the feeling, go with the intuition, because you have to learn to trust that. Like when you've been in a relationship with an abusive person, your sense of trust has been shattered. Trust of yourself, trust of other people, trust in the universe or God or creator, right? Because it's sort of like, well, how could this happen if God loves me? How could this happen if God loves all his children? Or how could this happen in this universe kind of thing, right? So you lose, it's like everything is shattered, that sense of trust. And the only way to rebuild that trust is to start with you, and it's to start with listening to your intuition. And the more you listen to your intuition and act upon it, the stronger that self-trust becomes. And the more you know and trust yourself, the more you can know other people and know who is trustworthy and who should not be trusted. And you develop that new sense of trust in the universe again that has been shattered during the trauma of those experiences. So yeah, again, ask questions. Don't assume anything good or bad until you see actual signs. And listen to that feeling. Pay attention to your friend's body language. Pay attention to the words that they're saying. Pay attention to the facial expressions. Pay attention to how you feel when you're hanging out with your friend and when you're not. Because, even if you're in this bad situation at home, when you're hanging out with your friend, you should feel good. You should feel awesome when you're hanging out with her, and you should feel awesome afterward. Even when you go back home to your parents, you're maybe up in your room and you're like, oh, I'm just so grateful for my friend. That was just so awesome. It's so different to hang out with her and have that connection with her. It's such a different kind of relationship that I have here at home. I have nothing like that here at home with my parents, right? It should be like that sort of thing. That's when you know that's a healthy, positive friend. If you're not getting that good feeling and you're always questioning things and you're not really sure about her, intentions and everything, that's probably a sign that things are not safe, that things are not safe over there. It could be that it feels comfortable and familiar because that's what you've always known with your family, which might be why you think it feels safe, right? But if it actually isn't safe, you're feeling those alarm systems will be telling you that, with anxiety, with some sort of, negative feeling. Could be in your gut, it could be in your knees, it could be anywhere. So you want to tune into your body and your intuition and find out, what is it trying to communicate with you? And listen to that first and foremost. Like I said in one of the videos, I think it was last week, right? You can know all of the red flags. I mean, you can memorize 100 red flags and you can know them inside and out intellectually. But I guarantee you that when you are in the moment again, and the going is real, right? That's when it's all going to fall apart. Like, you're going to know all these things intellectually, but in the moment, no matter all that you know, you're probably still gonna go, but is it really that? Or maybe they didn't really mean that and it was that. Or is it really that flag? Because maybe it's not really gaslighting. How do I really know, right? So you can have all this intellectual understanding, but if you don't trust your intuition, you have nothing in the moment. That intuition is your number one barometer of your truth. You have to listen to your intuition. You have to get used to listening to your intuition, to hearing it, to sensing it, to feeling it, to seeing it. However you have that relationship with your intuition. And if you've never had a relationship with your intuition, it's time to get to know yourself. It's time to get to know how your intuition is communicating to you. This is good for me. This is not good for me. I like this. I don't like this. This feels safe and healthy. This doesn't feel good, and maybe I don't understand why. I just know it doesn't feel good, right? So you got to start listening to those messages coming from inside yourself. You have to trust yourself first and foremost. If you don't, you're always going to be caught in that codependency thing where you second guess yourself and you believe what the other person is saying. You self-doubt and you trust the other person more than your own intuition. That is exactly where the narcissist, the psychopath, the borderline, the sociopath, the histrionic person wants you, because that's how they manipulate you. When you second guess yourself and you believe the other person more than yourself. So I'm sending you a big hug, and I wish you a lot of luck, and go ahead and put those, tests into practice and see how it goes. And I would recommend journaling about that afterwards, so you can really process that and you can remember it and you can really see things. It'll be very validating for you down the road. I'm sending you a big hug.